5, 4. I'm turning live because Jabacon's doing that. 1, go.
Oh my god! Sorry, Ben's just counting us in, telling us he's gonna fucking throw us live early just so we can see Bacon just do his weird dance. I don't even know. Anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to RLAfterShock. We started things off on a fantastic note, and of course, a fantastic note to carry in off the back of a fantastic weekend at Epicland. I am Jay, joined by DigiBay, the man who I had to spend a whole weekend in bed with. Don't take that out of context, folks. I was just sleeping, for fuck's sake.
Admittedly, though, I was bad because I found it so fucking funny just to be like, I would play just jokes and all of that in the same bedroom.
Mate, do you know what? Like, you're a fucking bitch to sleep with, mate. You hog the bed so bad.
You
I was
snore
pushed
so fucking
up.
much.
Yeah, I do snore. I warned everybody about this, but you made my life a living hell in that fucking Airbnb, my dude. Like, you do not know the idea of
Everyone's
fucking sharing.
It's fine, don't worry.
Right.
The only difference is when you're dating the person, they're sex, so you don't care. You put up with it. It's life.
Oh, like last week we were talking about Cooks here in a Speedo. This week is us two in bed together. Like, what the fuck has this podcast become? Before we go down any other NSFW routes, let's talk about some actual Rocket League, because of course there has been some professional stuff going down. You have to forgive, by the way, if any of our voices end up croaking partway through the podcast. We have just come back from Epic Land. It is extremely harsh on the voice to work at UK LAN. But of course, we're talking about the other big event that went down this weekend, of course, the Renegade Cup. Yep. We're going to talk about the Renegade Cup, the RLCS walkouts and redundancies, the E-League investing in the Rocket League deal with Psyonix, and of course, Pashy returning to the RLRS qualifiers. All that and more coming up, including a DreamHack Leipzig preview on today's show of RL Aftershock. Let's start with our news, because it's been a controversial week when it comes to news in regards to RLCS, in regards to everything else. Two particular figures, of course, announced their departure, in some cases optional, in some cases not. From the RLCS broadcast. We start with Findable Carpet, who posted this on Twitter. I'm going to be taking announcement, quote, excuse me, got burps. Announcement, I'm going to be taking a step back from casting in the RLCS this season. Recently, an opportunity has presented itself to me. After hard deliberation, I've decided to pursue it. I will still be in the gaming industry, but now you'll just have to find me in chat. So this was, I believe, most likely like the least controversial of the two main announcements coming through when it comes to RLCS talent. And it's like a fair dealio thing, you know. Like, he's seen an opportunity, he's going to go take it in another game, which is fine, you know.
Probably Fortnite.
I mean, it probably would be Fortnite, considering how much he's been playing on that one, you know. And you know, the rumor has it that he shaved his beard because, you know, that's what Epic Games asked him to do for the sake of the broadcast, which I think is fucking stupid, because, you know, if someone asked me to cut my hair, I'd be giving the finger and tell him to go away. But the one that really sort of didn't really impress a whole lot of people was this other one from Axel Toss. After 6 incredible seasons, I will not be hosting RLCS Season 7. It's been an absolute honor to be involved with what has become one of the most prestigious events in all of esports. Thank you to our Sonics, Twitch, the broadcast team, and all who have turned in and supported. Based off of not only this tweet and also the thread on Reddit that went up, and of course, you know, me browsing through the thread myself, you know, I made a comment that got pretty high up there, but you know, it seems that this was definitely not the choice of Axel Toss. Unlike with Kevin, unlike with Findable Carpet, who said, yeah, he took an opportunity in another game, it seems like it's the complete opposite of everything. And honestly, I'm going to start with my thoughts on this one, because this is fucking out of the blue, like, you know, left field levels of what the hell. Like, I did not expect this. I could not expect. It's going to be such a jarring sort of jolt in feeling as well, because like Axel Toss is like the voice of the RLCS almost. You know, like, you know, usually you open, like, for the past 6 seasons, you've heard his voice opening things up on the show. It's like, you know, it delivers at that professional sort of style. You can almost argue that he is the voice of the RLCS. So why they decided to go with someone else, I'm really not sure about this, Bacon.
The only thought that I can say makes sense is if Gillyweed steps up and takes over RLCS. That just makes it sense to me. If it's someone else stepping on in, then why is the change there? Is there just some sort of, like, you know, falling out? I don't know. It could be a contract, like, money-wise. No idea really there. But for me, the only one that makes sense is Gillyweed steps up and takes over that role, which is understandable. She's good at her job. Is she better than Axeltos? Getting opinions, it's just like you said, one out of left field and doesn't really make much sense. And we'll only find out when it comes around to the actual play-ins and, of course, the RLCS, when we'll find out what the actual deal is in the replacement.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Cloudfield tried to shoot this down on Reddit, saying that there's no way because she's taken a full job at Psionics, but I think that's kind of the point of her taking a full job at Psionics, is to get that sort of opportunity. That, you know, not fully the point, obviously. Like, she's got another role. She's obviously helping out with the Renegade Cup. She obviously brought you in to write an article for the EU finals. But you know,
that was just literally her wanting our opinions. So we just literally wrote out what our thoughts were on the teams and sent that in. When it came down to, you know, last weekend with Renegade Cup, she was there alongside them, sort of like being a a consultant sort of role, essentially, but she wasn't on the stream, which, you know, would seemingly be more alongside her role as a broadcast specialist. But it feels definitely with what Psionics want, they're two separate things from Axeltos, you know, being on the RLCS and her being there and running it as a host. It's an odd one, is to put it straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, to be like, I was going to say, like, you know, I know that Cloudfield tried to shoot it down, say that there's no reason for it, and I'm like, well, actually, this is actually pretty common practice in the industry. Like, you know, this is stuff that, you know, ESL were doing in the past. Like, you know, one of my friends, Tom Biz, in Counter-Strike, used to work for Starladder as a contractor. I don't know if he took any other roles on, but most famously, even before that, you know, ESL used to hire like a whole team of commentators, you know, and these are going to be guys across the entire course of esports history that you'll know, guys like Joe Miller and D-Man, Alex Machine Richardson, who hosted E-League for Rocket League recently, Pansy, Jason Kaplan, who I worked with recently in Bucharest. You know, all these massive names in esports across the whole shot. You know, these guys all had separate roles and different sort of jobs in ESL, while also being in-house talent, essentially. So the fact that this has come around, if Gillyweed is on the RLCS broadcast team, like, it would not surprise me if she ended up being, you know, if she ended up being the host for the next season and the next few seasons potentially of the RLCS, because obviously it seems to be unofficially confirmed that season 8 is going to be coming up that later on this year.
For me as well, like, I'm personally not going to mind it too much. I actually prefer Gillyweed as a host. Nothing against Axeltos, but it's just like, you know, if you're there going, which would you prefer running it? It's going to be Gillyweed. Nothing against the dude, but I think she is just a better, like, preference for me, just because I prefer her sort of like exclamation run-up style. It's just what it is.
For me, I mean, like, I'm more of a case that I would have preferred Axeltos above Gillyweed, but that's just because obviously I'm with that era of familiarity. I mean, obviously we have to see how well she does in the job, because I still think that she did fantastic in the RLRS. I'm not going to take that away from her.
Oh, no.
But again, 6 seasons and having that one guy open up every show, like, it's going to be such a weird format. I think it's going to be such a weird broadcast format coming into the next season. I am a little bit. I'm going to say I'm a little bit not scared.
Anxious,
I'm a little bit, you know, like, anxious is the right word. Like, I'm not sure how this is going to go down when it comes to the broadcast of the next season. You know.
What if next season it's just a complete and utter left field and, like, Golden Boy comes back because he did season 1 of Rocket League?
They ain't got no, mate. No. If they can't afford to get if they can't afford to get EU talent to DreamHack Leipzig, they can't afford fucking Golden Boy. Stay away. Don't give me that bullshit. No chance to hell.
What about this new lad who's doing DreamHack? Bloody hell, I can't remember his name. Was previously doing, like, StarCraft stuff or something.
Dreadnought.
That's it, Dreadnought. What if he's coming in as new host or something? Like, you know, speculation there. Maybe this is them sort of like giving him the first crack in a sort of non-RLCS environment, because I've seen his previous stuff. He's a good dude. Like, I wouldn't mind it too much. We'll see this weekend when he's, you know, cut his chops near enough on Rocket League there, but I wouldn't be too surprised there as well, because... yeah.
Well, I really hope that that's not the case. I really hope that they haven't already decided on him before he's even done a major event, because, you know, while I do respect the idea that, you know,
I say breaking news once again from Aftershock. Failius is the new host apparently in chat.
I saw that as well. But like, again, if you're going to employ someone before they've even done like a Rocket League event, like again, I think I'd be much more comfortable with Gillyweed above Dreadnought. And that's not, again, nothing to take away from Dreadnought. But again, I've never seen what he's done because I don't promote heroes. I also don't want to imply anything that's not due, but I also want to say how curious it is that he's also another guy from Heroes of the Storm. And I was going to say,
her coming in as broadcast specialist, that makes sense. She would know what this guy's good at.
Now, I'm not saying, I mean, look, the one thing I don't ever want to see happen is conflict of interest, and I never ever want to say that there's conflict of interest in any situation where there's not, like that's the last thing I want. But I do have to make a note of the links right there. They have worked with each other on broadcasts. It's common industry practice that you will essentially, give, you will recommend your friends for work. But
that's it. Otherwise, you're naive for thinking.
Yeah,
else.
But like at the same time, like I'm still skeptical about how this is going to go down. I mean, again, I'm not going to try and criticize any sort of like major talent sort of any decisions until they've gotten up to the show and proven themselves. So I hope that if there's anyone that's going to replace Axel, it has to be Gillyweed in my opinion. Like again, I prefer it if the issue didn't. Again, I prefer to see Axel Toss continue his hosting role. But obviously, the decision has been made, and no matter how much I say on Reddit that I'd be happy to forfeit a spot at RLCS for the sake of having that decision reversed, it looks like that's not going to happen at all.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Of course, I was only half serious with that, by the way, guys. So if you do want to hire me, right?
Oh, jeez. Anyway, right, next news article here. Pashi coming back. I don't want to say I told you so.
Right, no. Before you, I mean, you did tell me so, but I just want to say, right, if you're a pro player and you want to retire, can you at least stay retired for like a good amount of time? Because that
at least
way,
the season,
yeah, at
not
least
just the off season. Like use the off season as an off season.
Because, like, it's not like, certain content creators wanted to put together a massive tribute show and spend 45 minutes talking about your life and career in Rocket League, say what a guy this was, what contributions he's left behind in his time in this game. Oh, we're also going to miss him. It's going to be so sad. We drink to him. And then he just
1 month later, he's back.
1 month later, he's back. Like, what the actual hell?
Don't get me wrong, I'm quite happy because we could potentially see Pashi, Siki, and Kim number 7, the like OG Crown and Jewels team back together, which would be awesome. But at the same time, it's that sort of thing of like, if you're going to retire, like you actually retire. You don't do the whole M&M thing, come back when you track a year later. No, that's not retirement. Like I said before, it's because he's just too damn competitive. I want to know as well, because he said he was trying other things. What happened to those other personal commitments? That'd be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that I have to query about this whole thing as well, is that obviously Pashi said I'm going to go pursue some personal projects. I'm going to be stepping away from Rocket League to try and do some other stuff. So I want to know what the other stuff was and how what those plans were.
We
and how
should have
long
done that as our feature for this week. Is just what was Pashi's personal projects? He wants to go on a binge of hot dog eating contests. We realised he was not up to snuff.
we could go on some like serious conspiracy theory escapades with that. We'll leave the conspiracy theories out for another time, obviously, because I don't really want to entertain that thought. But yeah, obviously he said he's going to be teaming up with Killer number 7. As you say, they were former teammates in the past. I mean, I don't know what their third is. I don't think it's been officially confirmed. I know that obviously Lucas is in chat. He was saying that Yeezy was also reported to be active.
I can't see Yeezy being up to snuff. Sicky's a much better choice.
That's the thing I was going to say. Like Sicky will probably end up being the main third. So if we just assume for a minute there's going to be Pashi, Killer, and Sicky in the current landscape of RLRS qualifiers, do you think that they could possibly make a run to the RLRS, or do you think it's a lost cause? No.
I personally
that's
think
blunt. There you go.
The problem is that we've seen from the Renegade Cups and everything like that, EU at the moment is too bloody stacked. Even like if one of the teams that are currently there were to drop their spot, it's still too stacked for, I would say, Pashik and number 7 and Siki to put a team together and compete. Like, we're looking at it now, and these teams coming through, I'm too damn impressed to think that they're not going to be that some of them, like ARG, are going to be taking that spot. Like, for me personally, ARG, even MCon, I would say have secured spots if they can just play to that caliber. Because we know that other teams, like, say, Schnoozers, the XXL guys, aren't sticking together. They're looking to break up. So, of course, the new rosters, if Pashi can get through, I'm impressed, but I think he'll turn up as a sub on one of the bigger teams. That's where I reckon he'll end up after all these RLRS play-ins.
Yeah, I can see the same thing as well. I mean, I mean, like, Killer Number 7's been a relatively respectable player, but I don't think he's done anything massive ever since, like, the Juicy Kids. Even then, I don't even think he was a main sort of player for the Juicy Kids, if memory serves me correctly. I think he was always a sub. No, sorry, Stocky was the sub. Scratch that, my bad. But, ever since that point with the Juicy Kids, like, it's always been, well, other than that, what has he really done? He's had one RLRS run, which sort of went well. It didn't really go any further than that.
Back in the day, but is that case of
that's the thing. That's the thing.
Stuck into
back
a
in
team.
the day. Back in the day is the key thing right there. Like he's not had any sort of like major international success for the best part of a year, I think, to be honest. I'm not really sure. Yeah. I'm not really sure where his talent weighs up. Obviously, we've already made our thoughts about Yeezy with Siki as well. I don't think Siki's enough to carry this team, to a point where they will be able to qualify for the RLRS.
Like, I don't want to count any players out personally, but it's just like I said, from what we can see at the moment with the teams that are continuously been in the spotlight, it's going to be super hard for any team to make it on through. It will literally come down to the bracket on the day. God help whoever is seeding the RLRS play-ins.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
please.
I reckon it'd be
get
Cloud,
this right.
which is good, probably someone like B Shadow J. But if someone like literally came to me and like, oh, you're knowledgeable, can you like help seed it? I'll just be there like, I can help, but fuck knows I'm going to do a good job. No, ain't going to work.
No, man, I would turn it down just there and then. Like, no way that you could possibly handle this. Like, this is it's a task and a half. Even us as the experts, we're supposed to know. We should be able, in theory, to see this. That's how stacked EU is right now. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And of course, we're talking about more stacked EU talents in the DreamHack Leipzig preview coming up in the later part, the middle part of our show. For now, we still have a couple more news bits to get through. In particular, I want to talk about another tournament we had going on with the Renegade Cup. Freaky tweeted this a little bit after his team was eliminated from the Renegade Cup this past one weekend. Literally explicit, just fuck you all, I'm done. Is all he said. That's all he tweeted out on Twitter. So I have to ask, how much of this is just him not handling the whole Renegade Cup thing in a massive manner of form? We'll get into more details in this when we actually come to cover the Renegade Cup. But how much of this is that, or how much of this is Freaky just generally being frustrated at Rocket League?
I actually think this is Freaky. You know when you accidentally send a tweet early, right? He's done that, and he's like, fuck you, or I'm done. With the PS4 controller, the Xbox One is definitely the better controller, and that's just what happened. It's clearly not him getting, frustrated, again, knocked out of a tournament early when he should have been, of course, in the top two teams, and, getting quite pissed off by that because they've just got absolutely trounced by Savage, who were on a fucking good weekend, and then, of course, drop into Method later on, who are Method. So, yeah, it's clearly not just, Freaky being frustrated like everyone does, and probably shouldn't be allowed to go on Twitter after you lose a series because you just make bad tweets. Yeah, it's not that. It couldn't be.
I have a feeling I'm detecting a certain hint of sarcasm there, Bacon.
Oh, no, not sarcasm from me, never.
Yeah, so I mean, look, right? It's way too good of the timing when it comes to Renegade Cup and everything. And again, we don't want to spend too much time on this particular story because we do have some, we do have a bit more on topic of Renegade Cup coming up a little bit later on in the show. Again, at the very top of it, we'll be talking about everything in regards to that particular Let's call it a tournament. Let's call it a tournament. How about that? But yeah, like, the frustration is very high amongst a lot of different pro players. So don't be surprised if you see some saltiness coming out from several others, including the likes of Freaky. But in good news, to close out the news section for once, is going to be this little thing that was announced was it today or yesterday? I can't remember. It's very yesterday. Okay.
This would have been our breaking news on the stream if we were doing yesterday.
Oh no, yeah, I remember because like it was posted in the Discord. Of course, you should also join our Discord by typing exclamation mark Discord in the Twitch chat or by checking out the notes and the descriptions of the audio and video versions of the podcasts. Hashtag sellout, of course. Get that fan interaction up there. We need those sponsors, boys. But Psyonix and E-League obviously signed it. Literally, it was like 15 minutes to the end of the usual time of the closing of the show from yesterday. So, this would have been our breaking news spot if that had happened. And Psyonix and E-League obviously signing a TV ad deal. The details of this deal specifically, there's 3 main points. Number 1, TBS will air a TV series around RLCS Season 7 and Season 8, so we've got an indirect confirmation of Season 8 that is in the pipeline that will be worked on. Secondly, Turner will also be taking a hold of sponsorships and advertising for both seasons. And thirdly, we've got CRL will be housed at Final Four Fan Fest with the National Collegiate Athletics Association, which is not important. Fuck those guys. But let's talk about the main 2 topics, of course, about the RLCS and the sponsorships of the RLCS, because I think this is the first time that Psyonix have let another company indirectly handle a pretty major part of their main tournament circuit.
Good company to have running it like that. Big as you can get, basically. The big question for me here is, does that also mean that RLCS will be live on TBS? Not just because it says a series based on it. For me, you'd be dumb not to have it there, considering all the results from E-League. Just getting in front of more viewers. And it shouldn't really hurt Twitch at all in that viewership regard. So I'm hoping that's what we're going to see, because if RLCS could be live on TV, that would be nuts. Basically, that just adds more to it, Yeah,
we already had the E-League Cup break records back in 2017. Obviously, in 2018, they did the exact same thing on Turner's network. So I'd love to see not only a series, because that's what they always do. They have tentpole programming around a certain event. They always do little documentaries, little follow-ups, and little bits and pieces around sort of the event they've been putting on. Of course, they have the live broadcast of the E-League show, which sometimes they broadcast on TV live, sometimes they don't. I know that the main season itself, for the major, for example, they broadcast the grand finals live. I think they may have broadcast one of the semi-finals live, but for the quarterfinals, the group stage, all of that was pre-recorded. Because how the fuck can you spend a full day just broadcasting nothing but video games
when they've got other stuff to put on?
Yeah, when they've got stuff like PGA and everything like that.
It was just they were given an hour and a half window or something like that, or a 2-hour window, so they could only fit in the semi-final and the final, because if they couldn't go over that, so they just played it safe, which makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's good. But I'd love to see it broadcast. 'Cause especially when you consider what World Rocket League is, you probably could cut it down into bite-sized chunks, and you could find a way to broadcast that relatively easily. Whether it would be live, I don't know. But again, we have to see what the details of that come down, because that's a really exciting thing for Rocket League. Does install a little bit of the faith that I've lost this past weekend. Spoilers, little peek behind the curtain for what we've got coming up a little bit later on down during the latter part of the show. But for now, it's going to be the end of our news stories. Any final words before we move on to DreamHack?
No. I was just really confused there. You're like, oh, what faith have you lost this weekend? Then I realised what you meant. So we'll just keep moseying on. We'll get there.
It wasn't the most subtle of teasers right there, Bacon. Jesus. Anyway. No. So our feature this week is going to be talking about DreamHack Leipzig, because it is literally the most stacked tournament since DreamHack Leipzig last year. So sticking in with the standard sort of themes of DreamHack, of course they would have this be a massive, massive event to start off the major land circuit of Rocket League. And of course, all the big teams are here. Cloud9, Rogue, Savage, Melon Squad, G2, NRG, Splice, Ghost, Flipside, Solo Mid, Evil Geniuses, Nordavin, Complexity, Reno Vitality, Dignitas, Mouseballs, Triple Trouble, PSG. They're all here, and all the rest of our friends across multiple groups of action. Ben's going to flash up some of the graphics on screen right now so you can see exactly who's where and how. My God, Bacon, there's so much Rocket League, like so much amazing Rocket League that could potentially spill over this weekend.
Yeah, literally, we were talking about this before, and there is only one section of this first day which is not stacked. And you've got to remember, this is the first day, so this is us whittling down 32 teams to 16. And it is literally Group D, that bottom half, Bread and PSG. Like, they should easily have the wins through that first round, and then it's Bread versus PSG, which into that sort of next one to go on through, which should be PSG's result, but I don't know. Bread could just cause an upset because it's quite hard to, prep for, since I was going to say a team that hasn't risen to the top yet. Jeez, that was unintentional. I had to literally smirk at myself. That is it. The rest of the brackets are going to be nuts throughout the entirety of the weekend. My only problem is going to be if they don't put the French guys, the Rocket Baguette guys, who have got the contract to do DreamHack, Pro Circuit, France, essentially, _FR. If they do not have the ability to use that as a B stream, so showing separate matches, I'm going to be so upset because every single game needs to be streamed this weekend. It is all so good.
Like, holy shit! They should have had an English B stream right there, man. Like, they absolutely should have had someone like us to go and do it. And I'm not saying that just because I want work. I'm saying that because legitimately, there's so much Rocket League. There's so many good matches on this broadcast.
Within the Discord, and it's like, no, there's reasons, legal reasons for it. And we're like, oh, fair enough. That's fair, but
well, no, I don't even know why there would have to be legal reasons. Just add a little bit extra in the budget to have us stream it from home. You don't even need to fly us out there. Legitimately, I think they have seriously missed an opportunity for this whole thing, to get all the matches on show, because there's so, again, I can't even go about it. There's so many massive matches out of this one, and I have a feeling that, obviously, I don't think they'll do a WSOE where they try and cut in and out of matches midway through the stream. I think that would be a terrible idea, especially when you consider it's also on a big stage rather than just in an enclosed sort of studio. So I
no tractor's good, but he cannot handle all of that at the same time. Come on,
it's too good even for a god. So let's. Yeah, again, I am a little bit disappointed, to be honest. Again, I feel like it was a missed opportunity because the thing about it is that I would do it. You would do it. I know most of the people around the scene would absolutely love to stream it on a DreamHack 2, channel, or even our own personal channels. Holy shit, I'd do it for free. Again,
if you want to keep up production quality, you just don't do webcams, you don't do caster pictures, you literally just have the name along the bottom, because we don't care about that. We just want to be casting over this stuff, and that's how you do that sort of you limit the stream in those regards to keep to a professional set level. And like you said, it feels like it was a missed opportunity here.
Yeah, again, I don't understand what Rocket League's thing is against B streams. You could absolutely put all of this content in a secondary stream, and people would absolutely lap it up. With
an upcoming tournament that I'm trying to organise, that we'll be doing a B stream because you cannot leave out anything. It's just too good.
Small leaks, by the way.
Incredibly small. This is
quite that on your page, Lucas. The bacon sauce, right? Okay, Jesus. Well, talking more about sort of talking more about the missed opportunities. Let's not miss an opportunity to talk about some of these teams, because obviously, actually, let's not let's not miss an opportunity to talk about the format first, because obviously formats have been a bit of a question, a bit of a thing around the latest few tournaments. Of course, the LAN from WSOE and, of course, the Renegade Cup this past weekend. 2 days of double elimination bracket, and this is actually the 8-team GSL system, which is a bit of a weird take on the GSL system, because usually it's 4 teams GSL. You win 2 matches, you go through, and you lose 2 matches, you go out. Where it's sort of a similar sort of scenario, but there's also an extra added round for each of those squads. So there's a bit of a chance available for even more teams to qualify. Actually, 4 teams will make it out of each group, which is actually a staggering number of teams to move into the second day of group stage, which is where 4 more teams to make it out of each group into the final quarterfinal playoff. Similar to how they worked it in DreamHack Open Leipzig last year, except without the open sign-up, so that way we don't have an odd number of teams. Now, the main issue that I had with DreamHack Leipzig is that the system was in place last year, except it was a 14 bracket, and also they had open sign-ups, so we had odd numbers of teams. Both of those have been completely omitted to make sure that we don't have those issues again. And I think that as a result, the format for this year's Leipzig, it works better as a result.
I think this is probably one of the best formats for Rocket League. The whole, the only thing I could say I find weird is that, say you qualify through lowers from the first day, you go into the second day with that same sort of like the same caliber of you qualifying through as those that went through in the highers. You might be seeded into a different space or whatnot, but for me, that sort of feels a little bit odd because I quite like tournaments where it's got double elim for the first day and then goes into a double elim on the second day. If you qualified through lower, you go straight into the lowers of the second day. I love that sort of, you carry that weight through instead of there being a reset, because on the third day, it's just a straight up single elim bracket. So it just feels a little bit odd with the whole seeding aspect, but really I'm nitpicking there because, like I said, you'd be going against a team, like your seed from that spot would go against a team that qualified in the uppers, so hopefully that should have a weight advantage to the upper team, so really it's one of the best sort of formats you could run into a tournament, and it should lead to some exciting sort of like aspects.
Yeah, I absolutely want to see a format like this adopted for like the RLCS. Like, maybe if you wanted to take 16 teams, so you have like, 4 from each region move forward, 4 from EU, 4 from NA, 4 from OCE, and 4 from SAM.
There should also be minuscule chances of rematches, because the only chance would be in this double elim sort of bracket is if you, near enough, you knock out a team in your first match, and then you get knocked out in the second one, and you have to fight against them to go on through later. And I don't even think that is it, because there's 2 spots in the lowest go throughout. So you should basically never have to rematch the same team unless you're doing it on day 1 and then on the last day, which is a cool aspect to it as well.
And also another improvement they made on this little format as well is also that all matches are best of 5. We made that mistake at last year's Leipzig. We made that mistake this past gone fucking weekend, but they're not making that same mistake anymore, boys. Where we go, all matches are best of 5 up until the grand finals where they're best of 7s.
Hey,
so,
we can learn.
Can I just say, we can learn. Can I just say, thank God, because the amount of frustration that happened this past weekend with the Renegade Cup, I am so happy that none of that's going to go down for DreamHack. And again, it proves more the point in regards to trusting E-League to run sponsorships, trusting DreamHack to run a professional $100,000 LAN. Like, we are capable. Everyone else is capable of running this shit. So let's encourage this more, Sarnix. Let's do some more. Let's do some more other third-party tournaments.
The idea is a little bit different, because for Renegade Cup, it was so that they could stream every single match. For here, this is a little bit different because, like we said, we're going to be missing matches because not every single one's going to be able to stream. So in that regard, it's a bit like, I want to watch every match. I want to watch all of these best of 5s. Like,
this is why you should have a second stream in place, boys.
Hopefully for Valencia, or what's before that? Dallas is before that, I'm pretty sure.
Dallas is the next one for DreamHack.
I expect there to be a B stream, whether it be, at LAN as well, or more likely online. That'd be cool. I want to see that.
Yeah, of course. So, the format is going to be great. I think, it's probably going to be one of the strongest tournaments again. It's appropriate because we cannot afford to have any upsets in this kind of a tournament, because every top team is here. Every single one of them, as far to my knowledge, at least in EU, a good majority of them are there. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Even the RLRS squads, like Triple Trouble, are going to be out there. So I'm expecting a lot of good fun. I'm expecting a lot of good things from the matches. Again, I think that every single one could potentially be a banger. So certainly release those demos, please, DreamHack. We beg of you. So let's talk about some of the teams that we want to watch out for.
An intro or something to the stream. That is it. That is
Spoilers,
pretty much the biggest
secret
one.
project spoilers. Shut up. So let's talk about some of the big squads and some of the squads we want to watch out. I mean, I've kind of set myself some personal rules that I don't have any particular teams that like have that been invited. For example, I don't want to say like Dignitas or TSM. I did, although that being said, I did break the rule once.
You picked both of those in your teams to watch, mate.
Did I? Oh shit, I did.
Yeah.
So ignore what I just said.
Like, teams to watch for me, Jay, are always the ones like your Dignitas, your TSM are a given because they're going to be on stream. It's more the ones that could cause upsets or the ones where there's a little bit of spice to it and a reason to watch them. So
here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? I was going to install that rule, and I don't know why I said it right there because I very clearly threw it out the window with my first two picks. But the thing is that there are so many big teams.
We'll go for free each in the end.
The thing about this LAN is that there's so many teams and so many storylines coming into it that you can't help but even question some of the teams that have been invited. And obviously, Dignitas and TSM were invited. They underperformed the WSOE. So you're looking at those two squads. Like,
even from WSOE,
is that a fluke?
those two, that would have been from like RLCS/E League. Because remember, the invited teams were announced at about the same time as WSOE because WSOE was so late in its announcements.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's so much to question, so many teams to dive into. So let's start with your picks first, because the first team that you said we need to watch out for is Complexity. You put down, well, the qualifiers just a flash in the pan, which is actually something that I brought up in the podcast when we talked about the DreamHack qualifiers, because obviously they brought in some new blood, They brought in some new blood in Flakes, and they completely smashed the shit out of the EU qualifiers. So, is it a flash in the pan performance, I mean, it could well be, but of course, this LAN performance is going to have to tell time, because Flakes is going to be, I think this is going to be his first LAN. At least playing with Complexity will be his first LAN. I'm pretty sure it's his first LAN in general. But, let's talk about this, What do you think of Complexity coming into this match?
So thinking of this, like, again, we haven't had a chance to see him anywhere else since, so all we've got to go off is the qualifiers here for them to get their sort of place. And if you remember those qualifiers, they just straight up ran through everything. Like, there was no stopping Complexity during that qualifier. It was like Flakes was just a natural fit for this team, which, again, I've always doubted Greasy, never saying he's a great player. Like, I've been saying he's a good player, but never like a top 14 caliber guy. Would always say he's a bottom half RLCS, but with this, stand to correction, they ran for everything, and so maybe Flakes was the glue that was needed for this team. Again, when we're looking at Magnus here, we're going, oh, he's fallen for grace. He's not going to get back to the sort of like, he's not kept up with the rest of the teams, because back during season, say, 5, absolutely nuts. Season 6 came around, season 7, and he started dropping down a little bit. And so here for Flakes come in and just like rebirth this team. Fantastic. See, the bracket that we looked at they're in, Notorious Legion should be an easy first game for them. We can't say anything really else to that. Second game, though, they've got Reno Vitality or MCON. MCON's been on a little bit of terror, a team that can cause upsets. Reno Vitality, though, currently boot camping, in Paris. If they fix their shit, and it's a lot of shit, we have to say, if they can fix that, that's a scary team to go against. And then if they fall down, they've got the likes of TSM and Evil Geniuses there, which are two, like, TSM, definitely a scary team. EEG, another one that I'm putting as like my lookout for, is one that could be scary, because what we've seen from them before is near enough. Drippe, just being introduced to this team, playing with them for the first time, he's now had a few weeks to merge in with them, and so he's a player of great talent and could be scary here under EG.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to Complexity for a minute. I mean, I want to talk about where. I mean, I think that possibly with the branch that Complexity are on right now, there's a good chance they could possibly make it through in the upper bracket.
Oh, yeah.
It's all just a case of being able to run through Reno Vitality, which, if I recall, during the qualifiers, they did have a run-in with them. Let me just verify that through the bracket real quick. No, sorry, they didn't scratch that. My mistake. But even either way, they still managed to beat them out and win them and go over them in the first round. So they actually managed to face off against PSG and beat them as well. So when you compare that to the caliber of what they had, what they have in this new group and what they have in terms of MCon, like in theory, they should be able to beat them again with that upset squad. I'm going to touch on that in a little bit later. But do you think that they could? Let's talk about their potential to run through the group stage and into the quarterfinals. Do you see them making it to the quarterfinals? And if yes, how far do you think they'll be able to go in the playoff bracket overall?
Day 1, I'm pretty sure they'll make it through. Day 2, again, we don't know how the bracket into Day 2 is going to look, because that is what it's feeling like for the entirety of this tournament, is just how does this bracket lines up? Like, Cloud9 could quite easily sweep through everyone, bar maybe Dignitas finally has the results to them. Flipside seemingly have a good playstyle. Same with TSM. Could TSM finally have the playstyle to beat Cloud9? Because Cloud9's current strategy was just a counter EU playstyle. That's why against teams like G2 or NRG, they didn't look as hot. But against the EU teams, Cloud9 seemed dominating. So it just comes down to what does the bracket for Day 2 look like, which we haven't got an indicator of that just yet, I'm pretty sure. So that's the weird one. If Complexity keep the form of the original qualifiers, there shouldn't be a reason why they can't make top 8 into the final day. But it just comes down to the brackets for each time. And that's part of the charm, I'm going to say, to this tournament, is that it all comes down to the bracket and just where teams end up. A different day could see a different winner, which is quite cool, that's a great place for Rocket League to be in.
Yeah, and it's quite a great place for Complexity to be in as well. Also the fact that they're still contenders for potentially a deep run in the playoffs.
They can win it all.
Despite the fact that obviously in their last roster move there was uncertainty within the team and the organization, and I was saying this roster is done, and they brought in Flakes, and then everything has turned around for them. So the fact that they're even in the picture for a quarterfinal spot is absolutely insane.
A month ago, we wouldn't be saying that. Yeah, we thought
absolutely not. We thought that was it, and then Flakes came on and said, "Ha, nope." Speaking of nopes, you also put a non-EU team in your picks right here, Bacon. I'm just going to, because obviously you were talking about Group C a moment ago. Evil Geniuses are in the same, or not in the same branch, but they're on the same sort of path as
a group. Yeah.
Sorry, they're not in the same group. Yeah, scratch that. You are right. So they are in the same group, but they're not on the same branch as Complexity. So what do you think about this squad? Why have you put them down here on your teams to watch?
So EG, we've seen what they can do in the past, and they've sort of been like the NA upset team in the sense of they always just get into top 4 and then cause little upsets amongst the others where they'll take a game off of them. Here, like I said before, with Drippe coming in, where he's got to bring something new to the squad, and he was very new to the squad when we last saw him about 3-4 weeks ago. Hopefully now they'll be able to adjust to him, be able to get him settled on in, and start coming through with some strategies. You've got Fireworks and that working alongside them. We should see a brand new EG. And you've got to remember, their LAN results over time have been improving. And each time, Chicago was brand new to the team last season. You've got Drippe, like I said, coming in this season. And each time their LAN results get better. I'm expecting EG to be one of those sort of upset teams once again, where you'd look at all the teams here and you go, oh, EG is probably not going to make it through to the final 8. And I'd say, keep an eye out. They could make it there, That's why they're the one to watch. Again, the whole thing with Complexity is they could cause upsets. And my third team actually being Savage, they finally got onto form with the Renegade Cup Finals. They swept through that. There's no line about it. And here, it's going to be an interesting one. Their first match is against Rogue, which is a pretty, I wouldn't say a solid NA team, but it's a top 8, so it's cool there. Then if they somehow beat them, which wouldn't be too far a shout, to be honest, they'd have to go up against Cloud9. So that is literally throwing them into possibly one of the hardest opponents in Rocket League. And remember, we have not seen Savage against RLCS teams before.
Yeah. I was going to bring this to mention, because that was the one thing that we always said about this squad is they've got fantastic offense. They've got amazing offensive play. But how is that going to be able to man up against the RLCS caliber teams, especially when Europe, where they could be on to face off some of those teams throughout the course of this tournament. You know, they could be seeded into a group in day 2 where it's like, okay, well, you know, they could be up against, you know, a flip side tactics. They could be up against a Dignitas. They could be up against the complexity. They could be up against a Reno Vitality, for example. You know, so I want to see where this team goes. I really want to watch them. I really want to see how they'll be able to handle against the RLCS caliber, especially when they're in a branch in the Group A where they could be up against 2 North American teams. Like, that's the key thing right there. If they go up against both Rogue and Cloud9, then, like, holy shit, like, how is that gonna, like, compare? Because North America as a whole is pretty flashy and offensive. Savage are also pretty flashy and offensive. So how is that sort of like Clash of the Titans going to work out for them?
Yeah, and that's the interesting part as well. Like, we saw before, let's go back to the WSOE qualifiers. Savage got through to the finals, just dropping the flip side. Back when they were playing with Yukio, and that was a good roster as it was, and then dropped and had to give up their spot because of the whole alpha having to go to bed problem, and PSG then took their spot. DreamHack qualifiers come around, and let's just say they didn't even show up on the day. Like, quite frankly, 3-1 loss to MCon, and then it was a 3-1 loss as well to the Big Sack Mandem Junior, Breezy and Marky, which should have never happened. And that was like the start of their slump, which they've now hopefully climbed back out of. And if they can put the same performances down as like they did with WSOE, they should be able to go into day 2 quite easily, I'm going to say. Or you'd hope anyway, because this Group A is pretty damn stacked. When you look on the opposite side, you've got G2 and then Melon Squad, which is XXL, with Nils, who is a fantastic addition to that roster. No, sorry, that's X Secret, sorry, which is Niels added in place of Ty Lacto, which seemingly at the moment is from their run, which they got qualified in here, is a nuts team. It's going to be a hard one. Like, from there, for my picks out day 1 would be Cloud9, Savage, Melon Squad, and G2. But like I said, we've got Rogue in there. Exalti, D7, and Fake Out could cause an upset. Same with Mindset there. But they should be able to go through day 1. Savage getting into day 2 is a completely different beast.
Yeah, I'd have to say for the day 1 groups, Group A certainly looks like, Group A certainly looks like it's the hardest group of them all. I mean, there's a couple of caveats and sort of like argument points you could make away, but like there's a lot of really good squads that could potentially do some really good work in Group A. Like especially for the X-Secret guys, with having Nils Cook on there, and we didn't know what they were going to do, and then they did absolutely fantastic throughout their qualifier run. So, I'm looking at this like this possibly could be a seriously massive sort of group, especially for the EU squads,
Yeah, and like we said, for this here, like it's a very NA stacked group with Cloud9, Rogue, and G2, 3 NA RLCS teams. And I'm looking at it and saying Rogue's probably the least likely out of the lot to make it through to the last day. And that would probably be a bit sour for the squad because they have not had any luck really so far with results. And it's just seemingly unfair, but it's the way it is. You look at the other groups, and I'm like looking at Group B and going, Tainted Minds making the whole trek out from OCE, and they're probably going to get dropped on day 1 as well. Looking at it, like they've got Splice in the first game, they've got NRG if they somehow beat Splice, and then there's Ghost and Flipside within that bracket as well. Yikes. Like, the whole thing is there's going to be RLCS teams dropped in the first day, which is crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, more than likely, but we'll have a look at who's going to be dropping out again. Bacon's teams to watch are Complexity, Savage, and Evil Geniuses. So keep your eye on those groups, especially Group A, because 2 of those teams are in Group A. For me, I had a bit of an expansive point because I actually picked 5 teams to watch. Again, this tournament is so stacked that I feel like any of these teams can have a really good tournament or have a really bad tournament. There's a lot of storylines going into this one, especially with some of the invite teams. Again, I wasn't going to pick Dignitas and TSM, but I had to pick them in the end just because holy shit. And of course, there's some other squads down there as well that I think also have some interesting sort of stories going into this one. So let's start with Dignitas. Now, the reason why I put these guys down...
I'd say skip over them because Dignitas and TSM have the same problem, really. And it's just their recent performances haven't been that great, but like we said, it's because they've both been knocked out by Cloud9, essentially.
Well, well, that's the thing, though. I actually think it's very, very different reasons why they had issues at WSOE. Because I was saying about Dignitas, I was saying I'm not sure how well Yukio fits into this squad, and it turns out that when it came to that playoffs day, they were playing really unconfidently. Even throughout the group stage, they struggled in the group stage of WSOE to a certain extent, and it was because the team play was not quite there. Violent Panda looked unconfident, Turbo Pulsar looked unconfident, Yukio suffered as a result. It was very clear the team had not spent enough time trying to develop themselves, and this is a problem that Yukio had with Flipside back when he was picked up for those guys. That's why I feel like it was a bit of a bad move to move away from that squad when they possibly could have also won WSOE with Yukio instead of Speed, because I feel like they had that synergy there. They worked on it for years, and they looked like they were going to be a solid squad. Whereas moving into Dignitas, I don't think that they have that anymore. So the reason why I think TSM lost was just because of general underperformance. I'm not sure whether that's because of what's the term? It's been so long since I've used it. Champion's curse, for example, like getting in E-League, and suddenly now it's going to be an absolute dip in form, a complete underperformance. It's like jumping off the edge of a cliff, essentially, in terms of performances right there. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, whether they can bounce back, which is why I picked them for this LAN as well, because I think, well, can they bounce back? Will they be able to bounce back? Are they going to be able to take a look at how WSOE went and try see if they can get another top 4 placement? I don't know. I mean, obviously, I want to get your thoughts.
I look at both those teams and I say there's no way that they can't make top 8. It's Dignitas and TSM. That's what I'm saying. Like, for me, WSOE felt very much like an off form, but that was a few weeks ago. They should be back at it. They're both, doing their, I'm saying scrim, but boot camps at the moment. They should just be back to normal old form. Top 8 should be super achievable for both sides, but going from there, just flip a coin on the day, essentially, because the top 8 is going to be super stacked.
That's the thing. The reason why I picked them is because obviously Dignitas have been known to be such a dominant force in World Rocket League, and TSM, where we were pinning them after E-League, saying, right, this is the team that's going to watch. This is the next dominant force. This is going to be the next Dignitas. And so far, we have not seen that. Again, is it a lapse in form? Is it like when they won that first World Championship and then couldn't quite recover in Gnarly and E-League? In Gnarly and what was it, DreamHack Summer, for example? Back when Dignitas were known as Gale Force, for instance. Is it going to be one of those cases, or have TSM already hit their peak? I don't know. That's why I'm looking at DreamHack Leipzig. I'm saying this is going to be an interesting sort of thought, but for both of these squads, again, I want to see what the old guard can do, because I still think there's loads of talent in there. It's a case of can they work out their issues. Next team I had who haven't been at the top end of the scene for a while is PSG. We've talked about them in the last couple of episodes. We said had that, the LAN issue, the LAN jitters are a problem. Had that issue at WSOE where they couldn't make it out of the group stage. They were disappointed. I was disappointed because I hoped that they would. Are they going to be able to do this again? Can they make a deep playoffs run again? I feel like it's just there, that all the talent, all the sort of elements are working really well. Feels like it should be the time to do it. The back-to-back Leipzig champions in PSG would be a good title to go away with. Again, LAN has not been favourable for them, but hopefully this is the time for them to break that streak, because, when we look back, they didn't make it through to day 2 of WSOE, remember? And don't get me wrong, they were super close, literally one game off of it, because both TSM G2 and PSG had 2 wins, 2 losses in their group. And it was just TSM were 2 games up, G2 were break even, and PSG were a negative of 1 game in the results. So that's why PSG didn't go through to the next day. It's hard teams, but PSG, they should be able to make it through to day 2 from that bracket, like I said, relatively well. It just comes down to after that, and PSG, hopefully, they just get on a good run. They need to be feeling like on a hot streak, Yeah, and that's the key thing as well. It's got to be all decisive results for PSG. There's no game difference involved. There's no group stage round robin stuff. They just have to get the win. They just have to get the series wins. And again, I'm hoping that they boot camp for this. I hope they're out in Paris right now, sort of like training for it. I know that obviously Renault Vitality were announcing today that they've got their team out on their own boot camp right now. So I'm hoping PSG are doing the same in private. I hope they're sort of like scrimming and shit. I hope they're doing some really, I just hope that they're working on it, because that's the one thing that's holding them back. They win so well in online leagues. They win so well in online, in online qualifiers. And it just comes to that LAN performance and it's like, it's so tragic to watch. Again, I still back up what I said last week, though, by the way. I still think that if they had like a Gfinity Elite Series spot, all these problems would go away. I think there possibly could be a team that just wins Gfinity Elite Series outright if they was to sign up for next season, you know? I feel like just with their like, you know, week to week training, with their week to week sort of like getting used to the LAN environment, I'd love to see a PSG in the Gfinity Elite Series. I'm still going to establish that much, even going into DreamHack Leipzig.
Yeah, and well, we've been at it, just like PSG would be a perfect little mix for
Fruity,
Gfinity.
I know you're listening. Talk to your manager, please.
Just say you need it, because the LAN experience would be great for you guys, and PSG and FIFA would just be like, it's the match sort of made for it, you know? It just seems dumb. I'm pretty sure they've got to have FIFA players there, because if they don't, that's just silly. But anyway, the other Frenchies that you have put down, and again, I'd agree to it, and we sort of already hinted to it, Renault Vitality, you're ones to watch, and it's got to just be straightforward, like, has K-Dot finally clicked? Because so far, it has just been a shit show for them.
I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, mate. Like, holy crap. Jesus. So they were invited to the qualifiers for DreamHack Pro Circuit, and the first result they had was against ARG. Now, admittedly, ARG still pretty fucking baller, right? I'm not gonna lie.
Yep.
You know, they're a team that obviously have made some really good runs in the Ember series. They took the victory away when they had no points, and it was like, holy shit, these guys have signed up their first Renegade monthly, and they're going to the Renegade finals. And obviously, this past gone weekend, you know, just to spoil a little bit of the results in the Renegade finals, they actually made it to the grand finals again. And it's like, holy shit, this is going to be a really big RLRS team. Meanwhile, Renault Vitality struggled against them in the first round, 3-2, and then they tried to go up against some other squads. They went 3-2 up against Equilibriatus, an upset squad that came from the lower bracket. Vikings 3-2 against them, which is the X-Fnatic squad. I would never put them to go that close against Renault Vitality. And then they got swept by PSG in the lower bracket part. And PSG obviously went to lose to Red Reserve in losers round 6. So they went 3 rounds in before going down. PSG doubled their own run against them. Like, you know, again, as you say, it's not even been that great. And again, that also comes off the back of the WSOE qualifiers, where they also got eliminated by PSG for that spot at the LAN finals in Vegas. So yeah, it has been a shit show. It's not been the most ideal sort of scenarios for them. And I'm still questioning. I still have that question in the back of my mind, was it a good idea to get rid of Pashi? Should Fairy Peak have been the one to go? Because all signs pointed to him. This is crunch time, man. You know, you got the upcoming season. Has he got his shit together? You know, they've been boot camping. I'm hoping they're feeling confident, but are they going to deliver on the day?
That is the big question. Like I say, it's been a couple of weeks. Hopefully, they've fixed it up, because when it was Fairy Peak and K-Dot together, you just say like they play together all the time. There should be no problem at all. Scrub, being that natural third man that he is nowadays in Freeze, it should be a brilliant like wonder team. This is an easy top 4, and that result is not shown. PSG, like the whole thing of Scrub saying like, I'm not losing to not losing the PSG at all in 2019, and he
twice,
got slapped down twice. Yep, that's good for memes, but for a team like this, it's if they face up against PSG in day 2, which I'm pretty sure it would have to be day 2, right? Like, yeah, because they're not in the same group, so they'll probably, I'd imagine Group A and B will collide in day 2, and Group C and D will collide in day 2 or something like that. However it comes out, that's going to be a big decider, because that is a big monkey on their shoulder, you know, at the moment. Having PSG there as the team which just completely slaps you down. A fellow French org, yikes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that as well, I relate them to PSG so much, except, you know, it's like they're PSG, but not as good as online. Like, that's the key thing about them right there. It's like, oh man, it's really rough to be Renault Vitality right now. And again, I've still got the questions of whether that roster move was good. I've still got questions of whether Fairy Peak can perform. They're going to be a team I want to watch, because I want to see if those questions have been answered by the introduction of K-Dop. Because it's not like a Scrub Killer when he was introduced. Remember when he was introduced and they played a smiley face with Fairy Peak Mountain Scrub Killer? And they played and they went toe to toe against Dignitas at the time. It's like, this team has new breadth of life. This team has brand new sort of like momentum behind them, and then that just kind of faded away going into the RLCS. And you know, now they brought in a new player, and they haven't found that new breadth of life on the online circuit. So where do we go from here unless someone is stepping up in like a ridiculous level?
Yeah, and I'm just like trying to think back to the other sort of matchups, and MCon I could see with their playstyle maybe something that could upset Vitality, because I don't know, MCon just somehow get results.
Well,
don't they? Like it's a weird
that's the
one.
thing. Well, that's the thing. I put them as my last team to watch, or sort of like my underdog pick for this one, because I mean we've seen them in the Renegade monthlies, we've seen them in the Ember series, and we saw them during the qualifiers as well for some of these tournaments, do some stupid shit against some massive teams, and again, Savage were eliminated from the upper bracket due to MCon. Basically, they lost to MCon during a tournament. So this is a team that have already proven they can do some serious upsets against RLRS and upper bubble sort of like caliber of teams. The fact that they've also managed to get themselves seeded into a strain where they could not only be facing Reno Vitality but also Complexity if they can pull that upset off is a case of how far can that upset go. Certainly in the case of Reno Vitality, that upset is very, very, I don't want to say likely, but it is very, very possible. You know, I wouldn't put a high bet on Reno Vitality if there was odds on the match. I definitely wouldn't say. You know, I wouldn't put my money down.
It's a very uncertain one, which no one would want to put money on either of the teams, because Vitality, like you said, their results so far have been crap, but it's only been realistically 2-3 results. And you know, Greg is saying, "Oh, scrims, they've been winning it all." Okay, I've
already said my piece on that one, mate.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So you can't base anything here. And so coming in, Vitality are the one to watch, because it's like, okay, this is when the results properly start mattering. And they've got to have clicked by now because they've been together for a month, you know, that sort of thing. If they can't get through day one, then big worries for the side. If they definitely can't get through the first couple of matches of day 2, then it's big worries, because like you said, getting into day 3 is going to be hard, top 8 teams and all of that. Vitality are going to be gunning to get into day 3 at least, and I think they're going to struggle. If they make it through to day 3, Vitality have done good, because there's a big like rise of the bar from what they've done already, you know?
Yeah, this is going to be their first LAN performance since, I believe, the Gfinity Elite Series Season 3 win, if I recall correctly. No, scratch that, sorry. The RLCS.
Cannot include that, because purely Scrub did not play in it. The only one would have been Fairy Peak, and K-Dop's new to it. This is what I'm saying. Like, you can't consider any LAN results for this side. This is a fresh team, essentially, in this regard.
All right, then I'll concede that point. Then
that's
fair
why
enough.
It's exciting to watch, to see.
Then in this case, this will be their first LAN period. So let's see if they can bring that performance. Let's see if they can bring the thunder. And again, those are going to be my teams to watch. I'll summarize my points by saying Dignitas, TSM, PSG, Reno Vitality, and Memcon. Watch those squads. Excuse me. The LAN flew is caught up with me, Bacon.
I had my LAN flu at LAN. So,
yeah, you gave it to me. You gave it to me when we slept together. Right, let's talk. So we've gone on from a really positive tournament that we're looking forward to in a massive manner of form to a tournament which is disappointed in every sort of manner of fashion. I did tease this one by saying I've got some rants to make.
Ouch.
Oh my God. Here's the really shit thing, Bacon, right? So we were in Epic LAN. We were at Epic LAN this weekend, for those of you unaware. We're sharing a room at an Airbnb. If you missed the top of the show, then you can get more details about that if you watch the VOD and audio podcast later on down the line. We were talking about how do we want to approach this topic, because it's a very, very sensitive topic, and obviously we don't want to like really get into any bad books of Psionics. Honestly, I've thought about it for a long time, Bacon, and I cannot hold my fucking tongue on this one. Like, I am.
The only thing I'm going to say is you can't put the blame entirely on Psionics, because they got the production company in Media XP. So it's as much Media XP's fault as Psionics' here. That's all I can say to that. So we're going to probably just say Psionics as a whole, or, the Renegade Cup bit is not entirely aimed at Psionics. That is the point.
No, absolutely not. Like, obviously, you've got to delegate, and I've been obviously encouraging Psionics to delegate to a certain manner of form, and I've been doing that with Gfinity. Not Gfinity.
Fucking company. That's the problem.
Yeah, really.
Here's the thing, a company that never run a Rocket League event before.
That's the thing that triggers me the most. They brought in someone that's never done Rocket League again in their lives. And that is like absolutely batshit to me. Because they could have gone to anyone. They could have gone to any of the tournament organisers from the last 4 months that ran a monthly. They could have gone to us. We put on a banging studio show from your bedroom, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
like,
I would have just straight up gone to Rival and been there like, right.
Exactly. They've already done a season of the RLRS. They've already proven they can do, you know, studio events. If you want, and maybe you can even go to EU, you could talk to My Insanity. They just ran a fucking banging LAN in TCS. Like, that would be absolutely baller. You could have gone to ESL UK, who would have killed it in every manner of form because I know what they're doing. You could have gone back to Twitch. Again, you could have taken it to Rival, Rewind, Rocket Baguette did a studio stream, fucking, you know, Copenhagen Flames did an EU stream, a studio stream, and even the guys at Rocketeers did a studio stream. If you want a studio that badly, you could have gone to any one of those because they've already proven that they can run a goddamn event. And the reason why it pisses me off the most is because we absolutely killed it. We poured our hearts and souls into the Renegade Cup monthlies ever since October, straight through to January in my case, and the fact it ended like this is a fucking shambles. So, let's go through the points bit by bit, shall we? Number one, the formats. Who decided on best of threes like this? I really hope it was Media XP because I never ever want to see them do another tournament in that case ever again. This is the stupidest format I've ever seen in Rocket League history. Like, it, like, I don't, at least in modern history, you know, like, because obviously back during 2015, 2016, we were still figuring out how to make a proper Rocket League tournament work. Now we know best of five should be standard for a playoff bracket. In this bracket, you'll notice on screen right now, there weren't no best of fives until the winners finals and losers finals. They were all best of threes, including elimination matches. And what that does is it puts an asterisk next to every single result. We had a hard time coming up with topics for the actual teams that competed in this because you'll see that MCon had a pretty decent run. But how can we compare a best of 3 2-0 victory from, was it 2-0 or 2-1? I can't fucking remember. 2-1 victory above Triple Trouble to, you know, and the 2-0s against X-Secret and Method. How can we compare that to a 3-0, you know? Like, how can we compare that to their victories against Savage in the qualifiers? We can't. Because you kill the momentum in the first two games, there's no chance of a reverse sweep, which I think a lot of these teams could possibly have done. And now we see this as like, well, MCON made a good run, but did they? I don't know. We can't possibly prove that because while they may have, well, yes, it did mean that they get up to top three. Could they have done that if it was best of five? I don't think so. I don't know. We'll never know because this format is shit. Bacon, your thoughts before we move on to point two.
Essentially the same. Like, looking at MCon here, I know we've been singing their praises and why we want to look out for them, but Triple Trouble there, one game was able to be taken off MCon, and I'm there going a best of five. I would bet still money on that series. If we're like closing it at that point after game 3, Triple Trouble should still be able to pull out the win there. ARG seemingly being just their bogey team here is MCon couldn't beat them twice. Against other teams as well. Method alongside Casio can take down MCon. And it's just all about these sort of like, MCon could have just had an outstanding weekend, yes. But looking at the other teams, like Method taking them down, it's all about this whole momentum, your whole mindset of best of fives. And best of fives not being there until the winners finals and that's just, and the losers finals, sorry, and then a best of 7 for the grand finals. Just dumb. Everyone that's done Rocket League knows that best of fives are the way to run it. The only reason why the best of threes were used was because they wanted to show every single match.
But that's the thing. That's the thing.
Why?
You want to show, if you want to, that's the thing. It comes back to my point I was making about DreamHack Leipzig. Put a second stream in place, boys. You got a fantastic load of EU talent who would lap that shit up, as I've been saying for weeks and weeks, months on months. I've been saying this for ages. We never get used. It's annoying. And the thing about it as well is that you want to show more matches, you take away the spectacle of every single match. I sat there bored on my ass because Squid, credit to him, man, great caster. He knew. You could tell that he knew about the shit situation that it was, because he didn't have any spectacle in it. I didn't have any faith in it because not only the other circumstances around to that, but we'll get to those in a second. Best of threes, you know that there's probably going to be a really shitty situation.
Yep.
Like Speed was describing it. He was on his live stream. I recommend you go check that VOD out, by the way. An hour 40 into it, he just goes off on the entire tournament, and it's great entertainment, and he makes exactly the same points that I do. He's like, 150-50 challenge lost, and you've lost the whole series. Like, that's the problem with best of three. There's no mitigation. There's no sort of like buffer zone for you to try and get a legitimate result and get a consistent result. There's no consistency in best of threes. Yes, you want to show every match on stream. Do it in best of five, though. Do it the right way. Do it the right way. If you're going to do something, do it right, for fuck's sake. Now, point 2, adminning. Again, I go back to Speed because he was like the most valuable resource when I was doing research for this particular point. Yep. So they didn't have actually any admins for on-stream matches for a start, right? You can actually see this if you go to the GFG and... what was the first match on the first day? The GFG and MCon Esports match. Yep. You'll see that the Observer is the only person spectating in the server. And you saw that on stream, they didn't even take it off when he was trying to adjust like the map, when he was trying to adjust the arena that they were playing on. They actually showed that on stream. Great production value, by the way, guys. We're getting to that in a second. So they only had that guy to create the lobby, do the match, and pause and unpause the game. They actually stopped the game in the middle of the countdown. And that goes against every single logical fucking, established sort of concept of how you hide that shit. And you do not pause in the middle of the countdown, because it does not give the teams ample time to prepare. Speed said it himself. He was just there sitting there for like 5 minutes. They weren't going to tell them when the match was going to start. Suddenly, the countdown takes off from 2, halfway through 2, 1, 0, and then they've lost the kickoff. Stupid stuff like that. It kills competitive integrity. They should have done it like every other Rocket League event. Stop the players, get everyone to jump into the teams when the match was set to start, when the broadcast was ready, when the admins were ready, and say, go, 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 like every other tournament under the fucking sun does this. We got this down pat in the Neon Dream. We got this down pat in the Ember Series. Every other monthly up to this point had this right. This was not done right. And as well as that, other admins from the other matches also, apparently, according to other sources, including Tylacto, I went on the Reddit. You should take a look at those discussions on subreddit, by the way. They're a fucking joy. Tylacto said, it was a shit show behind the scenes. And I can completely understand how it could be, because this looked like it was a shit show from the surface. So... obviously I've got no faith in them being able to handle themselves back in the Discord, which apparently was created on the day of the tournament. So no preparation done whatsoever. Like, fuck me, man. Like, where, like, this is probably the biggest sin for me, because if you can't get adminning right, then you just destroy any sort of competitive integrity, You can't get it right for setting up matches. You can't get it right for application of the rules, because apparently there was a 5-minute buffer. You have to be in there within 5 minutes of your match starting, or your match set to start, or you get disqualified. But they only applied that to certain teams. Teams like Savage, Method, and French Fries got buys for this. Savage, according to Speed, had a 60-minute break for food that cut into their matches. Like, are you having a fucking laugh? Like, it doesn't matter who the teams are. It doesn't matter what their chances are. You break the rules, you get the punishment.
Broken, yeah. That is the problem. And again, it's that sort of case of, like I said, from adminning, the whole competitive integrity of the tournament is what is first and foremost should be there. And then the broadcast is second to it. It's why we had such a problem with the WSOE qualifiers. It's pretty much that it was all about the broadcast first, and then the games came second to that. And every TO under the sun that's worth their salt knows that first, and then knows that the broadcast has to come second. You're not holding anything up, because there are so many players you've got to go through, everything like that. And even, like you said, prep and planning. Discord on the day it's so easy to make a Discord. 30 seconds is all it takes, and then maybe 15 minutes to get the player IDs lined up and just sent the invites out. So for everything to be run so poorly just shows that, one, the production company was not ready to run this kind of event.
Do you know what else showed that it wasn't ready to run this event? Point 3. the production. Like, you thought WSOE was bad, at least that shit had potential. This hell, oh my God. Like, fucking hell. Day one, all right? Now, day one was where most of the issues happened. But here's the thing. I still saw production problems on days 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Like, fucking hell, guys. Like, I could have run a better show out of this room, right? I literally could have run a better show out of this room. If I got you down here, I would have gotten Crafters. I would have gotten fucking Irelink. And then maybe we wouldn't even gotten Tractor Manager. Like, shit, he would love to work with 3 monitors. Give him the fucking, the power of a god right there with 1 monitor. Tractor Manager does all of the streams for Rival Esports and Rewind and Part-Time Pros and whatever tournament he does it on 1 monitor. And he still did it better than these cunts with a fucking, studio in their hands. Like, that's absolutely batshit. So, point A, in-game frame rate issues. This got the stream pulled from the first day because they couldn't figure this out. Now, it was very clearly a problem with the PC and with the game because the cameras to the casters were fine. There was no many stream drops, so it was all down to the game. The fact they didn't have the appropriate equipment to run Rocket League. So good job on that, boys. You did get it fixed by second day, fair enough. But that comes to my second point. Terrible audio. Now, you know me, I'm a stickler for audio, right? I studied that shit at university. Like, if the audio's wrong, you're getting an earful from me. That's why I gave fucking, I gave Rocketeers shit for that back during the Thunderdome. I said, why would you put Cloud 2s as casting headsets? No.
Yep.
You give them fucking Sennheisers. You give them these things, You give them fucking, hold on.
The Audio Technicas.
You give them these things. You give them the Audio Technicas. These are £200 a pop. These work. Bacon's using one right now. This is my casting headset for 3 fucking years, You use these things because that's what a good production entails. If I was using my SteelSeries headsets for a tournament like this, everybody would be shitting the bed. But here's the thing: they were using Sennheiser's HMD 27s. They were actually using the upgrade version of the headset that I use right now. They still fucked it up. Compression was terrible. The EQ had absolutely no low end, and they didn't even have any low end for the game itself. Like, this is absolutely dumb. And yes, they recovered it to a certain extent during day 2. They managed to get a bit more of EQ going on, but the game audio was still out of sync on day 2. They still could not get it right. Even after the stream production was fixed, and fair enough, they were able to sort some issues out. They were able to get transitions right. Camera angles were a little bit awkward, but hey ho. This was a fucking shit show, man. And again, I feel like I could have run a better production out of my own goddamn room. You should have given it to RLAfterShock, boys. You should have given it to us, right? I barely have the resources to run 1 podcast a week. I would have still fucking done it. And I still would have done it better. Like, fuck me, man. Fuck me. And again, the reason why I'm pissed is because we put our heart and soul into this tournament circuit. I came out of the Ember Series feeling achieved. And then that achievement was fucking shit on this past gone weekend. I was there at Epic Land. I was watching. I had a break when the tournament was starting up on day 1, and I was like letting my co-commentators go. I popped in to see the chat. I popped in to see how the tournament was going. And I saw the shit show that was on offer. And I was like, of course. Just of course this would happen. Of course. So, not a happy boy. Not a happy boy this week.
Thing of the community orgs had done everything up there. Even, I would say, lesser community orgs, such as, like, in the regards of Copenhagen Flames and Veritas had done, Rocketeers had done German university stuff, so they count as a community org. But I say Copenhagen Flames, not really a Rocket League community, but they've been around the scene. They know how it all works. They do their research. They've done tournaments for other games and everything, and they brought in people that knew how stuff was run, so that's good. For here, when you just give it off to another organization that's never had any involvement in Rocket League, and the fact that when you search them up and they had 200 followers on Twitter, you're just there like, oh boy, this is not looking good. And it just seems, like you said, a massive middle finger to the work that everyone had done beforehand. It was like everyone had done a cracking job, even on the NA side, and then to hand it over to someone else that is not a community member, because remember, that was a big push for the Renegade Cup. That was all about the communities, all about the bubble players, and then just sort of like to blow it all at the end was, like we said, we can understand, like, to get leave it with an NA org and that. So, like we said, just give it to your Boost Legacy, give it to Nexus, give it to Rival. That had done a better job with it, been able to, just with a budget hire out a studio and do all of that. But no, it just seems like everything had just been spunked away at the last second, because why the fuck not just blow it all? And it near enough makes it feel very disheartening to be like a TO, to be a caster for it all, because it seems like all your efforts up to that point had led to nothing in the end, and it was just...
Well, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. We in EU, I know I can't speak for NA because I don't work with many NATOs. I only work with Rival and mostly on the EU stuff, occasionally subbing in for North America when they can't get enough casters. I know from working with the abundance of EU TOs that we have, Rival, Rewind, Copenhagen Flames, obviously, Rocket Baguette during their monthly. You know, I know from working with these organizations that we hold ourselves to a higher standard.
The
Because
NA
like
side
Asia,
as well are just so passionate about it. And then for me, this has got to be an even bigger sort of like annoyance for the NA guys, because like I said, they weren't chosen over this new org that's just come in and then have ruined it all. That's got to be even more annoying for, like I said, your Rival, your Mythical, Boost Legacy, and of course Nexus there, which I can't imagine how much like worse they're feeling after it all.
Oh, I feel worthless right fucking now. I'm not gonna lie. Like again, we hold ourselves to a higher standard in EU because we know that we're like, you know, we're the black sheep of top tier Rocket League. You know, like, we know that we don't get cared for enough. We know that we lost out 2 RLCS lands in a year. We know we don't have an EU studio. We don't have any of these things. And that's why when it comes to running community tournament organizers, we fucking care. We get it right. We get it right because we know that if we don't get it right, there's nothing else. There ain't no money in this. There ain't no pride. There's pride. There's fucking pride, you know. But you have no idea how much money we have to sink into these projects. Like fucking Aftershock is about to set me back $850 from a little project we got coming up, which will just increase. That's going to set me back just to increase the production value of this show a little bit more, because I fucking care.
Yeah.
And this is how we get it. This is how we get for it. Like fucking hell. Like this is why I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm losing faith in Rocket League right now. I really am. Because these are the people that Silix trust. Like, fuck me. Like, just fuck me.
It's the weird thing. It's like when we're there going, Turner coming in, that's fantastic. But then it's all top heavy. The care sort of goes when it comes to the bubble scene. RLCS and RLRS will be looked after. I say RLRS will be looked after, but with this, the Renegade Cups was more the RLRS is there to set the bar for the team caliber, but anything below that, it's sort of just dismissed. And that's something which I hope is going to be changed very soon. It's got to be.
Well, you say it's got to be. I don't know if it will. Time will have to tell, and I'm hoping things change, so... There, I've said my piece on it. There you go. Yep. I went ham. I tried my best not to, but in the end, I can't help it. Again, I care too much. I care too much, and you know, if that gets me banished from ever working on a top tier league, whatever. I'm happy. You know, I'm happy that I didn't compromise for shit. So whatever. So let's talk about some results. Again, we had difficulties pulling this all because all of these topics we're about to talk about come with the caveat of best of 3 results. We couldn't even talk about any of the other teams because, you know, it's definitely felt like there was a certain error of sort of like, well, we don't really want to try. Now, you know, again, I know that Speed was saying on his live stream that he doesn't really want to try, in part because also, that's another thing as well. One more just point to add to the pile. The prize distribution was terrible. $1,000 from 5th to 12th. I
understand this. Like, yeah, because this is not even on the sheet. Like, the fact that every single team gets a cut of that prize pool. First place getting 6,000, Savage. Second getting 3,000, ARG. That makes sense. Third getting 1,500. Fourth getting 1,500. Third had to beat fourth. And then fifth, all the way through to 12th. Each one of those teams getting an extra 1,000. That is just disrespect for the teams that made it further in the tournament over the others. It's bitter. I don't.
It is. It really is. It's just like fucking hell. Anyway, let's move on from that. Let's talk about some actual results because there was some Rocket League that actually happened in despite of what we've been trying, you know, despite of the complaints that we've had. Again, all these topics, they come out as caveats of best of 3s pretty much throughout the entire tournament, so let's talk about some of these squads. MCon, obviously, I mentioned them as the team to watch, or one of my underdog teams to watch during DreamHack Leipzig. They had, obviously, have had a bit of a name for themselves, and they did take some sweeps. against the likes of Method and Nordavind during the course of their lower bracket run. Sorry, I just looked at the Twitch chat and Lucas has said at least there was rewards. It's like just a small little giggle. But MCon eventually fell to the ARG squad in the losers finals, and again that was in top 3. The list managed to make a pretty good run, and this is the team that we were saying it's the team that it's these kind of teams that we were saying the Renegade Cup was built for these squads.
Yep.
So it is nice to see that MCon stepped up in a massive amount of reform, did some serious work, and did really, really tried their best to try and see if they can take away as many results as they could. Same thing for ARG, but we'll come to those guys in a second.
I was going to say, ARG and MCon are very much the same sort of spot of MCon's an entirely Dutch team, ARG entirely Spanish. And it's awesome to see because this is one thing we don't really have in Rocket League as well. It's very nation-based teams. And they've just absolutely blown out world. They have used the Renegade Cup to grind out and use it to the fullest. So it's like the Renegade Cup system worked for these guys, and it's what it was designed for. The RLRS teams crumbled here, I would say mainly because of the recent roster swap. So they're basically a month or so out of date where they have not been playing as a unit together because they're trying to focus on stuff like upcoming DreamHack and all of that. But for these guys to just stick it to them still is fantastic to see. And it's good for them. They're finally getting the credit because, like I said, ARG and MCon, I expect them to make RLRS after this caliber because we can see what level they're at.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can see them in the RLRS. I'm not sure whether they will make it again because of how stacked EU is. But there is one team that I am confident will make it through to the RLRS, and that's because, of course, our second place squad in ARG. Another grand final finish for these guys. That makes it the Ember Series where they won. They actually beat Savage on their way to that particular tournament victory. So, congratulations to them on at least making it through that one and actually managing to, 3-1? Yeah, 3-1 the MCon side to get there. So, that was the main legitimate result for them. And as well as that, also winning out against Nordavind in a rival $500 cup. Like, these guys are just on a hot streak right now, and they are my team. They are my series.
They only got dropped by Team Secret, which went on to get the spot, and Mouse Sports, who actually looked good on the day. And considering that's an RLCS team, that is promising for the lads because everything else they really did super good shit to. They took down Renault Vitality. That is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm quite excited to see what ARG can do. I'm 90% confident that they'll make it into the RLRS. Again, this is a team that came out of nowhere. They are killing it right now. They are on fire. They are looking white hot right now, and I'm expecting really good things going into the next RLRS season. So let's see some good shit, Spain. Let's see some really good tournaments. Let's see them go through. Let's see them try and do some really good work. Again, I'd love to see what they can do during the DreamHack Open for Dallas potentially. Again, I'm excited for this squad.
Well,
and obviously a grand final
upcoming
finish.
Chief Finn, Asus Rogue, please pick them up. I don't want to shit on the previous pickups and that, but a Spanish org pick up a Spanish team help development. If they don't, then LPE, why have you not got in contact and picked these guys up yet? Because it can't be a case of these lads are waiting until they make it into RLRS and pick up then. That just seems dumb. They're so good at the moment, they need the extra help to develop because that would secure them as such a powerful force,
Yeah, so let's see if they can keep that hard work going. One team that did get the revenge against ARG from the Ember Series was, of course, I mentioned them a moment ago, Savage. They lost to them in the lower bracket, and they beat them. They took them down 4-0 this time. So there is no doubt in this result that Savage actually managed to do. They're back, right? And again. This is the part, however, where I feel like the format really kills it for me because I want to say they're back, they're ready to go. This is going to be their season. But then the best of 3 thing comes through and it's like, okay, well, they got 2-0s against the Snoozers. They got, a 2-0 against X Secret. They got 2-1 against Bolo. I'm looking at this like, okay, well, yeah, they're back. But a part of me also feels like that those 2 squads in X Secret and Snoozers.
The big example here is against Snoozers. Game 1, Savage won 4-1. Game 2, it was an overtime 3-2. If you went into Game 3 in a best of 5, what's the stop snoozers being able to turn around and get the reverse sweep there? Like, for them to close it out, what you quite often see is it gets very close like that, and then snoozers start to be able to pull away a little bit because they're figuring out how Savage are playing. When you've only got a best of 3, you don't have that time to figure out entirely.
Exactly, and again, format, we've already explained that, but that adds the massive asterisk for Savage. It's like, are they really back? You know, the only legitimate results they had was a 3-0 and a 4-0 against ARG,
and
which,
it's against
fair
double
play.
teams and RLRS sort of teams. I say X as in, the jumble about. That's why I'm hoping this weekend they pop off at Leipzig, but we don't really know yet.
Like, I still think Leipzig is going to be very important for Savage, considering the circumstances of this tournament and considering, where we stand with the Renegade Cup and, where Savage were. Yeah, they won nothing, but just... So, yeah, it's going to be important for them to perform at Leipzig. They're already on the way, so let's see how they can do in Germany. But for now, they are the champions, taking away $1,000, $6,000 out of $20,000. That's like depressing, isn't it? Like, fucking hell, you don't even get half the prize for first place.
Whenever you look at big tournaments, this should have been about 8,000 at least. To me, when I look at the 5th to 12th amounts of the 1,000s there, it just looks as if they put the money in purely to get the players to play. If they had DQ'd out under their terms with them, they would have lost their right to that 1,000. To me, that just seems like they're losing faith within the teams because of what happened during all the Renegade Cup monthlies of the teams just dropping out left, right, and center because they couldn't be bothered. I
did say that would happen.
Yep.
I mean, it's cynical from Psyonix, but, I've moaned about it like 5 times on this podcast, and I've already ranted once today, so fuck that, I'm not going to say it again.
At the same time, I can't blame Psyonix for wanting to do that because they know at the end of the day it's in the best interest to keep the tournament going, but it's sort of like... Again, it's one of those that hurts the competitive integrity, and we're not just aiming at Psyonix for that decision. It's the players. It's their own fucking fault at this point,
Exactly. Only so much can be only so much can be blamed on Psyonix for this whole shit. So again, most of it is directed at Media XP. And for certain, as far as I understand it, like Scheist and Charlotte didn't actually do anything in regards to the finals. So no disrespect to those guys. I know for a fact that they would never have let this shit happen on their watch.
Nope.
So it's an absolute fuck you to Media XP. And again, it's a middle finger to the rest of us. So that's my piece on the Renegade Cup. Bacon, any final thoughts before we end off the show?
Just that this weekend is going to be nuts. Definitely with the RLRS plans. I'm excited to see how they're going to go because so many teams forming, so many teams that should go on through, plus a couple of little tournaments probably to be thrown in there. I know Rival have put on the 23rd and 24th their Winter Open, which we... have got coming up is it this weekend? We had it back on the 2nd and 3rd. Sorry, the Winter Open for EU, which is just absolutely nuts, and I can't wait to see the NA side there, literally, because it should give us EU guys a little bit of insight finally into what's going to go on and happen before all the RLRS playing. So I'm just happy. Rocket League for the next sort of month is pretty stacked. It's been stacked for a while, but we're finally starting to see the RLCS teams get to go against the bubble teams, which is good.
And hey, the tournaments actually are in the hands of capable people. So let's get excited for that much at the very least for the next couple of weekends. Again, DreamHack Leipzig is coming up this weekend, so make sure you tune into that. We'll be covering it on Monday when we come back for another episode of RLAfterShock. But for now, that's going to be us done for another week. Thanks for watching. Make sure you follow the Twitter at RLAfterShock and on Twitch, twitch.tv/RLAfterShock, where we stream the show live every Monday. Oh, well, in this case, it's Tuesday from 7:30 p.m., but usually every Monday from 5 p.m. GMT. I've been teasing some spicy content coming up. It's been slow progress, but it's getting there. Don't worry, things are on the way. I just need to get a few more designs done. I need to get a few more graphics. I need to reach out to certain people because there's some really exciting shit going on in Rocket League. So let's make sure we stick around for that. And of course, if you want to take this podcast on the go, you can find us on YouTube through my YouTube account, and you can type exclamation mark, I think it's YouTube in the Twitch chat. I don't think we've used that command in a while. So I'm sure Ben will probably test it out right now, so you can take a look at all the video versions of the podcast. And the audio versions of the podcast are on via iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, and 7 other platforms. Apparently it doesn't work, that command, so shit. If you want to find your favourite way to listen, it's anchor.fm/RLAfterShock, anchor.fm/RLAfterShock, and you can find your favourite way to listen, or request your own if that is what you really want to do. So, with that being said, I'm going to go and play some Apex Legends because that game is fucking sick. It's been out for 7 days. It's already a massive title. Bacon, how do you fancy a party?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's play it together.
Fuck it. Right, we're going to go play some Apex Legends. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you back here for even more of the Aftershock.